Ready? Okay, so my name is Frederic, and I'm doing the PhD here in the Music Technology Group. And well, my research is mostly about the concept of sound communities in Freesound and how can we benefit of this concept, which I will show. And well, what I'm going to talk today, first I will introduce the Freesound project. Then I will talk about this concept of sound communities, which is still ongoing work and we are kind of defining. And so if you want to make suggestions, every opinion is welcome. And then I will show a bit some ongoing work with a tag-propagation system based on this concept of sound communities, which is a kind of application of the previous idea, but it's nothing finished. I will just show the idea and how I am planning to do it. So let's start with Freesound. I think some of you already know about Freesound. We were talking a bit on Monday, I think. Freesound is an online collaborative database of sound samples or audio clips. And there is a community of users behind it that's uploading and downloading sounds. We could say it's a kind of Flickr for sounds, just to easily understand it. And the idea is that all the sounds that are uploaded in Freesound are released under Creative Commons licenses. So other people can reuse these sounds and well, can change it or can use it in other situations. Freesound was started in 2005 here at the Music Technology Group. And although initially the goal was to help researchers that often had problems finding royalty-free large datasets of sounds to analyze, but actually it has become one of the most popular sites on the internet for sharing sounds. So it has grown much more than we could have expected, and now it's not only useful as a research platform, but people is really using it. Just to show quick numbers, now we have more than 120,000 sounds. We have more than 2 million registered users, although we must say that most of these users, they only register to download some sounds and then they never come again. But still, there is a community around 5,000 people, which are the ones who upload sounds or comment in forums or rate the sounds, so which are more or less active. And to have an idea, we have a rate of 30,000 visits per day. So that's quite a lot of traffic. An important thing about Freesound is the philosophy of Freesound is for reusing sounds, as I said previously, but we say that we want people to upload sounds, not music, so it's focused on sounds. We don't want people to upload full songs, but maybe more than that, the idea is that we want material that is reusable. So it's not a place where people just upload the sounds they have created to show how cool they are, but more than that, in terms of music, people maybe upload melodies or loops or things like that that can be then later reused. And also, aside from music, which is not the biggest part in Freesound, there are a lot of field recordings and any kind of sound you can imagine. I think it is in Freesound. So, well, here I have 2 screenshots of the site, but if you want to check it, it's freesound.org. And well, I'm not going to show now a demo because you can do it in your laptop, but if you want to ask something.
Do you have t-shirts here? What? Can we buy t-shirts?
Well, that's one of the hardest problems. Now, actually, this is a new version of Freesound that we have just released this September. And I think the hardest thing is to get the t-shirts done. So,
I will because I'm teaching signal processing also, having this t-shirt on your side. We have to update the t-shirt because they are using the old logo, and we changed the logo, so we have to update it.
Okay, so that's just what I've said. We released a new version which has a new architecture, which it's more efficient and scalable and will allow us to develop more things in Freesound. It has a new interface, which we think it's more usable. And then we have an API. This is a new improvement, which makes it easier to access the content of the database of Freesound. And we think this is very useful for developers that want to create applications using the information in Freesound as a backend, but also for research purposes, because maybe now the only way to get to the data in Freesound was using a dump of the database that we could provide, but maybe it was a bit harder. And now with the API, there's a lot of information which is directly accessible, and we hope that this will provoke to have more research about Freesound, not only here, but also outside. Well, this is a diagram of the new architecture, but just to have an idea, we are using a Django application for the web front end and for the API with an SQL database. Then to perform the search, we have text-based search that looks into the descriptions of sounds and into the tags. And we are using Apache Solr. And then we're also using those technologies from the MTG that Nico showed on Monday, Gaia and Essentia, to perform feature extraction of the sounds. All sounds that are uploaded to Freesound are processed, and we extract features, and then we can perform similarity search. And also, all these the features that are extracted are also accessible through the API. So all the sounds in Freesound, through the API, you can get to the audio features. The future plans we have more or less for Freesound. From one side, we want to use this architecture to develop more advanced content-based retrieval of sounds. And another idea, which is the one that I'm working in, is to develop community functionalities in Freesound. So what we know is that inside Freesound there are a lot of different people with different interests, and we somehow can infer that there are some implicit communities which are interested in, I don't know, drum loops or field recordings. I mean, we can somehow see these different interests, communities of interest. So what we want to do is to provide functionalities to adapt Freesound to these communities so they can benefit of the fact of being a community with particular interests. And this, now I will show this concept that we call it sound communities, and how an application of how can we take advantage of this idea. So now I'll go to this second part, which is sound communities. Do you have any question about Freesound that you want to comment now? I mean, it was a quick introduction. I think you can just go to the website, but if you have any question, just do it. So sound communities. First, I will explain about the concept, how this concept fits in Freesound, and then maybe we can have a bit of discussion about how can Freesound, what does it has to do with Compmusic. So, definition. We tried somehow to define the concept of sound community, and we finally, well, this is work in progress. We finally end up with something like the sound community is a group of sounds and users that characterize a particular sound space. So here the important things are sounds and users, which are the members of these communities. Sounds are defined as audio files with some descriptions. And users, this is common in any social web application, but they are the virtual representations of the real people that's using the site. But the important thing is what the sound space, and let's leave it for later. So we have sounds and users, but what's even more important is that we have the interactions between them, the relations, and this is where we can find relevant information, because by analyzing these interactions, we get new ways to describe new features, new characteristics of these sounds and users. Simple things are, for example, the concept of popularity of sounds. If people is downloading a lot a sound or rating it, then this sound gets a popularity, which without the user wouldn't be there. No? So this interaction brings new ways to characterize these sounds. Also, the usage that users give to sounds, the notations, and also users. Users also become more popular, for example, or more known because they upload sounds that people tend to like. So this gives new descriptors for these objects. So at the end, what we have, this could be the case of Freesound. We have a lot of sounds and users, and at the end we have a big community and very heterogeneous, so it means that there are different kinds of sounds, different users with different interests. So what we do, or what we are interested in, is to identify, for example, this community. This community here, well, first I have to say that all these relations that I've just drawn here are, it's not real data, nor it's just to exemplify, but I mean, don't try to, to take it too seriously. So, for example, this could be a community which represents, as I said before, a specific sound space, which I have still not explained you what does it mean. And, well, let me just change a little thing, because I have some notes that now I cannot see, but this will be a second. Okay. Okay, so then we somehow know with which information we characterize sounds and users, and then with which information we characterize communities, which is to extract what's relevant inside this space, no? The things that are common, here we have some examples. The way that users characterize sounds, here, for example, I say taxonomies or ontologies. This would mean the words that they use and the relations that there are between them, which meanings they have, the behavior of users, trends in the community, if there are certain kind of sounds that are becoming more used or more interesting. All these kind of indicators can be useful to characterize the community. Also, which sounds can be relevant for a community. Well, all these kind of things that we have here. And this would be the case, no, in which we have the whole heterogeneous community, and then we can identify more sub-communities, and all those communities are characterized separately. And for example, for each one of these communities, we have different relevant sounds. We have, we have different ways to describe the sounds, etc. So let's go to the concept of sound space. This is, for me, a bit hard to define, but we could say that a sound space is a range of sonorities or other sound characteristics that need to be fulfilled by a sound to be part of this sound space. So it's a way to categorize sound. It's some characteristics that sounds fulfill in order to be categorized in this sound space. This is kind of general, but now I will show some examples, which I think then it will be easier to understand. And with this concept, we can somehow define similarity measures between these sounds, because given a certain characteristics, we can say that two sounds are more similar than two other sounds. So in the concept of a community, there is a similarity measure which is different in another community, and can allow us to say if sounds are similar or not. So these bounds of the sound spaces can be driven by many different things. And then, for example, we could say that can be driven for acoustic source. So this means that the sounds are generated from the same source. So we could say that this source has a sound space with all the sounds that can be generated by itself. They can be linked through timbre. So this means sounds that have similar timbre with different techniques for generating the sounds, even through culture. Here we could say that, for example, a group of sonorities of the instruments of a culture also defines a sound space. And, well, location where these sounds have been recorded, also in time, why not? Sounds from a certain years or something. And for other purposes, which maybe have nothing to do with the sound itself. That's why here, for example, I try to classify. Here we have more intrinsic characteristics of sound, which should have an impact on the waveform. That means that we should be able to analyze it automatically, just to have the idea, no? But those are things that are present in the sound itself. And here maybe these things are not so present, or are not necessarily so present, because they are extrinsic to the sound characteristics. And that's why, for example, here I say those are examples, game sound designers. We could have a sound space defined, but all the sounds that are interesting to the people which is interested in sounds of video games, for example, or other organizations or whatever. So now with this definition, I can give some examples of possible sound communities. So those that are more intrinsic to sounds, we could have bird sounds, I don't know, thunderstorms, well, whatever. And maybe here at the end, I have more organizational or other kinds of sound spaces, which could be the clear example, Sons de Barcelona. And this actually is actually a real community. It is a project which is related to Freesound. There are some workshops that people is doing here in Barcelona. People is recording sounds from, and then they upload to Freesound. So this is a kind of clear example. Sounds of Europe, City Rings, these are other projects. Here you have the links. But these are the examples of organizational organizations that also define sound spaces. And for our research purposes, we are not maybe equally interested in all these kinds of sound spaces, because what we want to do, we're interested in having these spaces defined with sounds that then we can analyze and we can somehow extract, for example, these similarity measures that I was talking about. We are more interested in those characteristics that have impacts on the sound waveform, because for us, at this moment, it's easier than to draw conclusions. So we could say that from these examples, we are more interested in things like those ones, things that we can easily analyze through the descriptions and through the waveforms. So then, how does this concept fit in Freesound? We want to give support to the existence of this kind of communities. So we want to provide the tools so people can organize inside the actual Freesound interface, and can build these groups of users and sounds. So then we can analyze those groups and we can adapt the interface of Freesound and the functionality of Freesound to this kind of communities. So, for example, the clear case is the similarity search. When you go to Freesound, you have this sound, and then you can look for similar sounds. This is using a general preset that takes some descriptors and just looks for the nearest neighbors. But those set of descriptors, those distance that we're using to calculate the similar sounds, could be adapted to the community itself. So if we have a sound community, we can analyze the sounds, try to see which descriptors are more relevant and less relevant for these similarity purposes, and then adapt it to the particular community. Also, the descriptions of sounds. Here, for example, we have a description with tags. We can also know which of these tags are relevant inside the communities, because maybe some tag is relevant inside the community and it's not relevant inside another one. And we can also try to propose new tags to expand these descriptions, and all this fitted, adapted to the community. So, well, the goals, benefits, I think this is more or less what I have explained. But the idea is that we should be able to present all the Freesound content from the point of view of a community. We have to be able to present, of course, all the content of the community itself in an enhanced way, but we also want to present all the content which is not inside the community from this point of view. So maybe descriptions can be different. For the same sound, it can have different descriptions depending on the community you are looking from. And also these relevance ratings. For example, inside a community, maybe a sound can have a different rating than in the whole Freesound in general, or that in another community, because people there are more interested in this kind of sounds, know more, and maybe say that this sound is good or not. And well, yeah, this is I already said. We also expect that by providing this structure and this functionality in Freesound, we will provoke more user interaction and collaboration in the site. We have the idea that these communities will be created by users themselves, and this will also, I think, bring a kind of self-organization a bit to the site. If people is creating, for example, a community about bird sounds and taking all the bird sounds in Freesound and classifying inside this community, this will also provide us a new way to navigate the sound, because we can navigate through the communities, but also will give a kind of organization. Of course, for this to work, we need users. And if they are not interested in this idea and they are not doing this, then it won't work. But that's our intention, that it works. And also, this will provide more data in general to research about Freesound and sound communities and to learn about sounds and people. So.
Say that the users will define the community,
Mm-hmm.
you mean they will define them implicitly, not explicitly saying that they are creating
Okay.
a group of users?
No, I would say explicitly. I mean, right now, I said before that there are some communities in Freesound. I was referring to implicit communities. It's nothing explicit on the website, but by analyzing the users and the downloads, networks, and these kind of things, we can see that there are different, somehow, communities of interest. But what we want to do is to make this explicit. So that's why I say that hopefully this will also provoke more interaction and collaboration and somehow dynamize the site. So that's the new functionality that we want to implement from the point of view of the user. Yeah. Okay, then I think we can discuss a bit how can Freesound be useful in Compmusic. From my point of view, there is a clear usage, which would be to have sound communities around different cultures, and for example, focusing on the instruments or rhythms or things like that. For the moment, you are mostly working with music, but well, I don't know. This is something that we could discuss, and it would also be interesting because, for example, now we are kind of defining which are those functionalities that communities should provide, and maybe there are some things that could be useful also for the project. For example, with Stelios, that he will, this guy over there, that he will be, in his master thesis, he will be also working with this idea. We are talking about providing a way for users to define a kind of taxonomy of the community that then can be helpful for this for the descriptions of sounds, to know these similarities between the concepts the tags use to describe the sounds. Could be something that, but maybe this is very interesting for research. We have to find ways to make it also interesting for users, for people, because otherwise they are not going to do anything. But, well, anyway, there's always this discussion between what's good for us and what's good for people, and we have to find a good point in the middle, because we are nothing without them. So I don't know if you want to comment some idea. If Xavier, do you want to say something about?
Well, for me, in Compmusic, there is this clear idea that we need to bring the actual community into music. The music is not just the music, but the community that is around that music. So we have to find ways to describe the way that the users relate to the vocabulary they use, and so all that description, all that data. So the idea is, how can we convert the community activity or the community relationship with the music into data that then we can analyze? In Freesound, that's a very clear example that we have data that reflects communities that we can analyze. So in Turkish music, so where can we identify data from which we could come up with distant measures of rhythm that are based on really what the people describe, talk about, the vocabulary they use. So, of course, the idea of Freesound is we have that data so we can work on that concept. If we want to then apply it in Compmusic, we will need to have available or develop, because it will be very difficult, sites or data in which we can mine and crawl for like forums or something. Like in India, there is a number of forums like the rasika.org. I mean, it would be great that you have this community of many people talking about music, and in fact, to identify the similarity between two ragas, and maybe as important what the people say as the distance measure between the MFCCs, I would say more. So how can we bring that into the picture? And we certainly can do that, but we should definitely do it on, like, on Turkish music.
We said from the beginning that Freesound is not about music, but more about sound and sound. So, for example, taking this raga recognition or similarity, I mean, would you expect to have some music over there?
We need to have some music. I mean, the copyright. I mean, the reason why we didn't put music into Freesound because of the eternal copyright issue. That's so. This is a way to. There is quite a bit of music, but just snippets or sections or fragments. You definitely need to have the music. The issue. I mean, if people refer to music in the rasika.org, you could always, if you have a good database of music on your own, you could always make a link to Music Brains, for example. No? I mean, Music Brains is the link that we can have between when in forums people talk about the piece of music and the actual audio that we have. So that link can be identified, and you can have it. You don't need to have the audio in a repository, in a forum, in order to be able to have the audio.
I'm asking myself, how could we bring people to Freesound and communicate through that if the sound is not there but somewhere else?
Yeah, for me that may. I mean, for me, we don't have to sort of try to impose Freesound into anything. I mean, for me, it has its own personality, it has its own roles. I don't think it will ever be a place to talk about Turkish music, Freesound. That's not the point. It may be a place to talk about specific sounds of a specific instrument or a specific sort of drum patterns, or that could happen. This is what Stereos in his thesis, the idea is to work on like drum patterns of the bendir or darbuka or something, but this is a very limited type of hardly lack with the type of the amount of data that we need is not easy to get. It's something that you cannot just start and aim at getting that data. You have to use existing forums of these activity that these people are actually acting and use that data. And with this, our model of all these kind of very distributed type of data, you can do that. So that's not a problem.
It's only that, I mean, you say we need to make profit of this user interaction about Turkish music.
Right.
But you need some kind of place like this where people communicate. Because
for example, I mean, where do people buy music? Amazon. Okay, let's look at Amazon. Do people interact in iTunes? Something. Well, let's look there. Is there a? So we don't have to be obsessed of this idea of us generating that data. This data should exist nowadays someplace, or it will exist.
But I think it's also interesting in the first point to clarify in which way and where people in Turkey use the internet to talk about music or to obtain music. And this is quite, I think it's not so widespread.
Actually, there is one big forum of
Like
Turkish
maybe
music.
it's Facebook. Maybe it's Facebook. I mean, I don't know.
But how would you access this data?
Exactly. There is APIs to access all this information. The other thing is how open it is and how accessible and how easy to process. Maybe we have to help it make it develop.
Well, my knowledge or understanding of the Turkish community now is the biggest interaction is in YouTube.
Maybe YouTube is all available.
I mean, that is, it's videos uploaded by some flute player or so. Most of the time unprofessional. And then the bad thing is most of the time in these Turkish forums, and you have lots of noise. And people, it goes to in some quarrels very easily.
But in Freesound there's a lot of noise too. And one of our challenges, and that's why it's a good platform because we have complete control over it, of how to clean that noise. I mean, maybe you can mention about tags. Okay. One core issue is how can we use the tags that people use in order to make distance measures or ground truth. 90-something% of the tags are only used once. So it is 100% noise. Those tags cannot be used. But we need to be able to develop technology that cleans that. And that's tag-propagation, like what Moch has been working on, so that you can make all that data more relevant, more useful, and more meaningful. So you have always to assume that there's going to be a lot of noise. And for me, that's one of the interesting research challenges. You are never going to have, in today's internet world, this sort of lab situation with very clean data, very handmade. That's not going to happen. And unless we can handle this data that has a lot of noise, we're not going to adapt. So we have to develop technologies that can handle this noise. And whoever succeeds in doing that and extracting knowledge out of YouTube, that's what Google is doing, and that so if we succeed in extracting musical knowledge out of that, then that's going to be incredible. Of course, the better, the more clean. That's one of the efforts of Freesound. Push to get as clean data as possible in the way that people add that data. So there's moderators, we push for the people to put the right descriptions, to put the right tags. With the communities is the idea, okay, to emphasize it even more, to make it explicit. People build their own taxonomy so that you don't even have to rely on these taxonomies and these ways that it's very kind of noisy kind of thing. So,
One of the biggest challenges as well is the use of language, different languages. We're used to extract knowledge from English text, not from Turkish or Indian. I think then if we want to do that, I think we will need some interaction with people working on natural language processing in the Turkish or Indian or Arabic
think
here exists?
probably it's hard now to think of Freesound about a general tool for Compmusic, but I think it could be quite useful for maybe specific cases, like this thing that Stelios will be doing. But we cannot create a collection of music inside Freesound, that's clear, but we can create a community of rhythms with recordings of different kinds of rhythms, and there will be a place inside communities to discuss and to comment. So I think that for some maybe specific cases could be very useful. So should I continue? Okay, so now I will show a bit this ongoing work that I'm doing. I will overview a bit the system that I have somehow planned. I will show which is the model of the sound community that I'm using, which is quite simple. And then I will show more or less what I have done. So the goal of tag propagation, well, it's quite clear, no? But we have a sound, which you won't hear too loud, but I don't know if you hear anything. Well, this is just the first sound I picked yesterday when preparing the presentation. And it has these three tags, urban, tweet, and birds. So this could be more detailed and better explained, no? So for example, this description could be easily extended with other tags like field recording, ambience, cars. Well, you don't hear the cars now, but there are cars in there. And how could we devise this, no? I mean, if we know that we have the tag urban, probably we can also know that there are cars in there. If we have birds and urban, we can know that maybe that's a field recording. Ambient is another quite typical tag that goes with field recording. I mean, these kind of things is what we want to do with this tag propagation. And we want this to be adapted to the community. So we want to base the tag propagation algorithm on a model of the community which will have different results for different communities. So right now, what I'm using as a model of the community is just a simple similarity matrix for the tags. So I have tags, and those tags are more or less similar depending on the community. To create this similarity matrix, I analyze the folksonomy. Well, I suppose you are maybe familiar with the concept, but folksonomy is a set of users, a set of tags, a set of objects, in this case sounds, and then we have a set of relations which says that the user has tagged this sound with this concept. So this is the idea of the folksonomy. And then I use the actor concept instant model that was proposed by Peter Mika, which the idea is that this model represents the folksonomy as an hypergraph. And then what you can do with this hypergraph is to, for example, based on the tags, which is what I'm working on, try to see the relations, the similarity between tags in terms of users and in terms of sounds. In this case, what it means is that two tags are similar in terms of sound if they are co-occurring in different sound descriptions together. And they are similar in terms of users if they are used together by different users. So this is the kind of similarity that I can learn from the folksonomy. Of course, this could be much more complicated, but for the moment it's this simple model. So then, in order to have these different models for the different communities, I'm using Freesound. I don't know if I've said it, but I guess it was implicit. So we have the whole folksonomy of Freesound, and then what we need is to somehow divide this folksonomy in smaller sub-folksonomies which can have overlap. I mean, it doesn't mean that a sound can only be in one sub-folksonomy, but the idea is to find a way to extract these sub-folksonomies that correspond to the different communities, implicit communities of interest that there are in Freesound. So the folksonomy that resembles all the users' sounds and tags that have something to do with field recording. No? So all field recording sounds, if I take these sounds, I can get the users that upload them, I can get the different tags that are used to describe them, so to extract this kind of groups. And then to do that, for the moment, what I'm doing is that I have this similarity matrix, which this is what I extract using this Mika's model, which is this is a similarity matrix for the whole Freesound. So then what I do is to apply some clustering to the similarity matrix to extract different sets of tags. At the moment, the algorithms I'm using doesn't allow overlap between these sets of tags, but ideally it should be allowed. And actually, recently I found some papers which deal with that, and well, probably I will try different things in here. Then the idea is that once I have these groups, I have to select to find which are the related sounds and which are the related users for each one of these tracks. So here I do things like if here I have, I don't know, 100 tags, I try to find those zones that have at least n tags that are in these groups. And here I can define a kind of threshold that will somehow establish the specificity in which I select sounds. If this threshold is not restrictive, all the sounds will be related to this set of tags. If it's more restrictive, then I will have a smaller set of sounds and it will be more concentrated. And the same thing I do for users. So then the community model is these three sets of objects. This is the sub-folksonomy. And then, well, this is a very simple approach which could be extended by adding more knowledge in this before the clustering. Here, I'm using similarities between tags that I also extract from the whole folksonomy, but I could also use other sources of information like WordNet or using ground truth that could be somehow manually established and using combinations of them. But for the moment, I'm only in this part. So then, what I can do is once I have these different communities with these sets of tag sounds and users, I can apply again the actor concept instant model to extract these tag similarities according to sounds and tag similarities according to users. This is what I said before, that I could extract similarities based on co-occurrence on sounds and on users. And then I should somehow try to unify those two kinds of distance matrix in a single one, or I can try to see which one could work better for the tag recommendation. Well, that's a step that I haven't solved, but that's something that well, that's a question. And well, just to have maybe a better idea of this tag similarity matrix, in this, Peter Mika represents them as a graph. So if they are a graph, you can also plot them. And then the idea is that this is data from Freesound. This is real data. And well, we have the different tags. And then those are the relations. So the wider it is, the stronger is the similarity. Now, so this is an idea of the kind of the model that I have. So if the field recording tag is a lot related to these other two tags. So if I found the tag people in a sound and it doesn't have field recording, I will most likely propose this tag because it's strongly related. So at the end, the kind of whole block diagram of the system would be, I have a sound with a tag description. I have the similarity metrics, tag, distance. Then I have some heuristics that help me decide which tags I propose to extend the description based on this matrix. And then I have the extended sound. Then this matrix should come from the community model, community adapted similarity matrix. This is what I showed in the previous slide, which should come of kind of combination of this distance matrix based on sounds or users. And this would be the same idea, but not using the community version, just using the whole Freesound. So here what I should somehow demonstrate, the hypothesis, is that this path works better than this one. So I should get better recommendations using this similarity matrix than using this one, which is general to the whole Freesound. Then what I've done for the moment, well, I've been working a bit already on this part, but it's still not finished. So for the moment, I'm only working with the whole Freesound. I still haven't done tests with specific communities. And then what I have a bit is the general structure. I have a very simple tag recommendator with some heuristics, everything very simple that still needs to be tuned. And then I have the two similarity matrix based on sounds and users of the whole Freesound. I still haven't tried how can I combine them to create one single. I mean, the idea to combine this thing is that I have many variables that I have to test, and somehow I should, at the end, find the best path that leads to the better recommendations. And then I have also implemented a little evaluation framework, which what I do is to take all the sounds from Freesound, take their descriptions, their tag descriptions, and remove some of the tags. And then I try to using the other tags, predict, recommend tags, and then I can compute typical precision and recall measures to know if the tags I recommend are good or not for the sound. The problem with this evaluation is that there are maybe lots of times I recommend tags which are actually good. I just see this manually, and they are not present. The idea is if the sound has 10 tags and I remove 3, then I recommend 5 tags, and maybe one of these tags, it was on these 3 that I removed, so this would be a good match, no? But maybe some of the other tags were not in the description, but are also good. And this is, I cannot find a way to systematically evaluate this with 100,000 sounds. So maybe also this evaluation could be useful to test, for example, different these different matrix and the different clustering algorithms that I can use to derive the communities, so I can somehow have an idea of what is better. But I think at the end I would need, I don't know how, but some kind of user evaluation, which is hard because there are a lot of sounds and well, I don't know, I have to think it. But I think that user evaluation will give better results than this evaluation. And well, that's the thing. Here I have some related references that you can check, and that's all. If you have any questions. I would like to thank you for the presentations yesterday, because I found them very interesting, and I learned a lot of things. Just I wanted to say it at the beginning, but I forgot.
So you have, it's just because I'm really not so much into this tagging thing, so I actually don't know too much about it. But so you have similarity matrices between the tags.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have similarity matrices, let's say, between the tags, which are computed in some way from the sounds and in some way from the
Yeah.
Okay. And the similarity matrix computed from the sounds is computed from sound quantities?
No, it's simpler than that. It's if I see that there are two sounds that have both field recording birds and field recording birds, those two tags, I can somehow infer that those tags have a relation. If there are lots of sounds that have them, then the relation is stronger. So that's what I compute using this actor concept instant model.
How many, the more identical tags there are, the more similar the sounds
Well,
are?
the more times those tags appear together, the more similar I infer they are. Actually, this model, this concept, actor concept instance model, what Peter Mika says is that this is, which I think it's not so much, but he says it's a way to extract, to derive ontologies. Well, he calls them lightweight ontologies, so not very strong ontologies, from folksonomies. So he says it's a way to structure somehow the tags. And other things that I've tried and I haven't shown here is to, for example, represent hierarchically these tags. And this is another kind of knowledge that, for example, in this case, field recording would be one of the higher tags because there are a lot of tags that are less used but are highly related to it, and that we can infer that they are part of this field recording. This model could also be enhanced with knowledge from WordNet. Well, as I said before, actually, this was a bit, what is it? Here. This was a bit the idea. We could fit this model also with other knowledge that can be useful. For example, in the case of musical instruments, tags referring musical instruments, it's clear that with WordNet I know that a guitar is a musical instrument, it's a plugged string. I mean, there are a lot of things I could try to learn. But for the moment, I'm trying to approach it from a more kind of generic point of view, no? That
Is the tag vocabulary in Freesound, is it free?
Yeah. Is it completely free? So as Sylvia said, there is a lot of noise. But for example, one of the things, I mean, the next step with this would be to propose tags at the moment of uploading. Then I could also analyze how this tag proposal may affect the behavior of users when tagging. Now, actually, when people is studying folksonomies, a very typical thing is to analyze how is the vocabulary, the whole vocabulary of the folksonomy, consolidated. Now, if there are a lot of tags used by many people, or everyone just use their own tags, so at the end, this is not good because then you cannot infer things. So in Freesound, it's not very consolidated still. So one of the things would be nice is to then observe how, by recommending these tags, it can be, I can help in improving the vocabulary, so in changing somehow the user behavior.
But you use all tags. You don't have a threshold.
Well, no, I have some threshold because also for computational purposes, I have to reduce a bit. I mean, I have basic thresholds like all these tags that are used less than, I don't remember now exactly, but I don't know, 20 times are removed. Well, I think it is smaller, but
Is there a way to put tags in certain portions of the sound?
you mean to say, for example, that
From this point to that point?
yeah, no.
Certain tags from this point to-
We have discussed this. This you can do with SoundCloud, for example. Well, it's not tags, it's comments, but at the end would be the same idea. But I'm not sure about it, because what happened in SoundCloud is that people is just putting comments like, oh, this is great. But that's what we were saying also before, no? For research purposes, there are some things that are more interesting and some other things that not. We'd like to have this kind of comments and saying, here there is a bird, for example. But maybe people, I don't know what they're going to.
The reason I'm asking is I have some interest to some kind of, well, I'm just dreaming of a forum or more
on
small phrases,
yeah.
melodies, or so. If there is
Yeah.
some kind of
I think this could,
there is a room for
yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, that's one idea. I mean, this could be. I think this would fit perfect in a field recording community, for example. And from this point of view, I think at the end we have the advantage in Freesound that people is quite serious. I mean, there is a lot of people that maybe is not, but in general, people is doing things properly. So probably, maybe in this context of communities, we could have this kind of functionality to comment things, to make inline descriptions. Well, inline, I mean specifying the point in time, and this could work. And especially for field recording sounds that tend to be very long, and actually it's hard to define them. Maybe there's a bird at the beginning and you put the tag birds, but it would be better if we know that this bird is only in the beginning. When you retrieve the result, you go directly to the point of interest. Yeah.
When two sounds are similar, like to calculate similarity using similarity descriptors.
Mm-hmm.
So when two sounds are similar, is that similarity also reflected in tag similarity matrix?
I don't know. Well, that's a very good idea. I could try to, also for evaluation, maybe I could try to use this kind of content-based evaluation for the tag-based similarity. Yeah. Well, there is some work that actually Moja you did, no, with recommending. I mean, this idea of extending tag descriptions, but based on content-based features, and not on other tags. Yeah. I mean, at the end, I think the ideal would be a combination of everything, no? But for the moment, I'm just concentrating on this. And also in the context of the community, this content-based recommendation could be also really useful, because you have different similarities according to the community, so at the end you will get different recommendations. So it's the same idea at the end, no? I mean, this is just an application of the concept of applying the sound communities to Freesound, and we could find many other applications. Also for the search. I haven't mentioned the search, and this is supposed to improve the search, because if we improve the description, search will be better, but also search could be tuned. And even for this thing I was saying about the similarity, even we could somehow provide the tools in the interface for people to define the similarity. Maybe people cannot talk about MFCCs, but maybe we can find some higher level concepts that can be useful to, so the community itself can define this similarity. Yeah.
How would you, for example, if you have such a community, or not community, such a web service as YouTube or whatever, and let's say, okay, you have the phenomenon that there are tags which appear only once and they are obviously useless, but there might be, or I can imagine two cases which are difficult, where you have a tag which appears very often maybe, or a comment, but which is useless anyway, because it says.
Yeah, it's because it's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, or it says just a comment like great or something, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the second case I forgot right now, but I will remember. So, but anyway, in a huge amount of data, how do you get through that?
Well, at this moment, I'm not trying to somehow clean these tags, which at the end is more or less what you say, I think. But there are some papers dealing with that, and there are ways. I mean, for example, one of the things that they do is try to take the tags and do some natural language processing, no? Try to map them to Wikipedia, for example, or, well, there are other sources more specialized, or WordNet, why not? And then you can see if this tag is a noun, is a verb, some things, and then you can somehow see that if a tag is a personal opinion, which maybe it's not interesting, or it's something which is about the content or is about the context. If you see that a tag is a location, is a name of a place, then you know that this tag is, well, you know what does it mean, no? So you can try to, actually I think there is a reference here Oh, no, it's not here. From, well, Ivan Cantador is a guy working in Madrid, and he has a paper especially dealing with how to clean these folksonomies of well, how to classify the different types of tags that are in these folksonomies. And then maybe you can only use one of these kind of tags to build all these matrix and these things.
And also, I mean, there's other publications, let's say, on the relation between this tagging thing and actual linguistic problems. I mean, for example, there might be the problem that you have tags where you say, okay, these tags say this exactly the same thing, or this tag is there's some hierarchy. I don't know. This is a higher point in the hierarchy, and this is just a subgroup of this. So it's like.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of things dealing with the idea, and somehow this takes in account a bit this, no? Because if I know this hierarchy and I extend the descriptions with the tag, no, I have a bigger tag, and I can extend with the tags below. Somehow it's a bit this idea of, and also with the synonyms and things like that, it's clear that, for example, one of the things that this is very useful is when there are misspellings in tags or things like this. Some tags that are the same but only change a character just because this is easily identifiable with that. And well, for the moment I'm using this very simple approach, which is not considering any further intelligence than just this, but it could be extended in many. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think my goal is tag propagation itself. Maybe my goal is more just somehow demonstrating that by focusing on the community, we can improve. And then I would like to focus on other also applications of this idea. So for the moment, I will start with this simpler model. Well, I can improve it, but I mean, I will start with that, and then see what happens, and then maybe I will decide if I continue with improving this idea, or maybe, yeah, I don't know. But there are lots of things to extend here.
Could be also an interesting question how to make, let's say, if you have a user in one community and okay, you see that similarity measures you concentrate on a specific community work better for the members of this community. But for example, it might be interesting to see for a member of this community, how can you enable him to efficiently find something in a different community?
Yeah.
So
I think if we succeed in implementing this community structure in Freesound, there are thousands of research questions that then will arise. No, at the end, Freesound will become another. We'll have many more excuses to continue researching. Any other question? So, thank you.